Kevin Clark, the Ringer. We've had Kevin on before. Always great to have him back with Craig Smoak, Paul Catalina. I'm David Smoak. Kevin, thank you very much. How was your vacation, by the way?
Old, so we're just taking little mini vacations. No big, Europe or anything when you have a little one. So you just got to take the beach weekends when they come.
By the way, we had Kevin scheduled for, I think, a later time today. Kevin, am I right, if you don't mind? And yet you have the little one, and there is a time that you just did not want to push the envelope on the availability. Is that right?
That's right. We have a new babysitter. We're just it's a process. I'm trusting. I'm like a college coach this time of year. I'm just trusting the process.
Yeah, it sounds like Matt Rule when he first arrived at Baylor. So, what are your thoughts with the NCAA telling schools, "Hey, no matter your state laws, you need to be careful because we're gonna enforce our rules"?
I saw a great analysis of this the other day, as soon as it came out, where someone said not only do they think they're above the law, they've long felt they're above the law, they now think they are the law in the NCAA, which I think is a good way to put it. What's strange to me, guys, is it feels like the NCAA is going out of its way to set up things that they know will lose in the court. And I don't know if that's hubris. I don't know if that's just not thinking things through or just trying shots in the dark. I mean, I think at this point, courts and politicians are against the NCAA, and I think that they're kind of trying everything and just trying to see what works. And I've seen a couple people who cover this on a daily basis say the NCAA has no plan B if federal legislation fails. I think we're starting to see what the plan B is. It's just like a little bit of it's a little bit of flailing, frankly. And if you're a college football fan, and I certainly am, you should be very, very worried, not about the future of the game, but what the NCAA thinks is the future of the game.
Kevin, I mean, is this them maybe challenging, if you've got, the NCAA, not from their perspective, they're trying to stay together and stay in charge, but I don't think that schools like Texas A&M, Texas, Florida State, all the, anybody in California really is going to care what the NCAA says at all and is going to, like you said, push the envelope into it. Do you think they're going to be the forefront of starting the new organization?
I think schools like having the NCAA because the NCAA is the one that has to pick up the lawyer bills and go to Congress and get sued in most cases. I don't think that schools want to set up a new kind of a new centralized thing where they take on maybe more risk as far as that goes. But if they have to, they will. If Charlie Baker, the new NCAA president, is going to act like this and have no new ideas and not solve any problems. And by the way, if you're a politician and you're in Texas, and Texas A&M and Texas have figured out how to use NIL, looks like they're getting great recruiting classes. Why would you even want to get involved with federal or state legislation in any way hurts the Longhorns or the Aggies or Baylor or whomever? TCU obviously made the Natty last year. So I just think that we're going to see on a state-by-state basis. I mean, California, I think I remember the schools when NIL was first kind of introduced in California, the schools were very nervous about it. They said, wait a second, we can actually end up being the school that gives players the most money. And if there's a state, and it sounds like California is going to be leading here, that starts to share revenue, TV revenue, I think we're going to see a normalization of that in the next decade. And so I think eventually you're going to see, listen, if USC and UCLA are forced by law, and Cal and Stanford are forced by law to share TV revenue, and players there get $1 million just for showing up, guess what? Those teams are going to win the national championship. And then immediately Texas and their politicians are going to look at that. And then Florida and their politicians are going to look at that. I mean, I think that we're getting to a point where schools know that they can do the best thing in their interest and get away with it. I thought that the most alarming thing in the language yesterday that I saw on Nicole Arbach's Twitter feed was they said, well, this is a voluntary organization. You guys are here voluntarily. I wouldn't be reminding schools that this is a voluntary thing because at some point they're going to say, you know what, this is not in our best interest to be here. We're just going to leave it to their own thing.
Yeah, that's a great point because we've heard about that possibility as time will move forward. Kevin, there is so much right now with NIL, NLI, and then, of course, whatever else, the transfer portal. But there still seems to be the 800-pound gorilla in people waiting for what is the next line of, I guess, action when it comes to realignment. The Pac-12 is hoping sometime here in the next week or 3 or 4 to have a TV deal. What are you hearing about that? We've tried to discuss it as much as possible because it could affect the Big 12 and elsewhere. What are you hearing? What do you expect to happen?
I don't think people in the industry have any idea. And you hear all sorts of different rumors. You've seen all sorts of different reports. I mean, say what you will about the Big 12 and their health and their viability going forward in the Super Conference era, but they're in a heck of a better position than the Pac-12 or whatever the Pac ends up being, whether they lose or add teams in the next couple of years. I think Yormark played it really well, getting those deals done early. I think that a couple of issues here, just talking about it with people in the industry, one of them is that, time zone wise, it's really tough for networks to commit to night games, for instance, with the West Coast teams. I mean, there's just a couple of different issues. And the other thing is you just don't have marquee teams out there. And I think that there's a lot of, just from kind of reading the tea leaves, I think a lot of people are worried. I don't think it's imminent, but worried that Washington and Oregon could be next as far as Big Ten poaching goes. That's something to watch. And what happens if you whittle it down and if you're just looking at a handful of schools? What if the Four Corner schools depart and go to the Big 12? There's just so many externalities of the Pac-12 where I'd be very, very, very nervous. The other thing I think anybody needs to guard against now is signing anything that keeps them somewhere long-term in the Super Conference era. I don't think there's any bigger group that regrets what they've signed than the top of the ACC, Clemson, Florida State, Miami, North Carolina. They can't get out until 2035, 2036. And then if they do, it's contractually, it is a nightmare as far as how much they're going to have to pay, the kind of revenue they're going to give up, the media rights they're going to have to give up. It's crazy. And so I think flexibility, and it's only homeless guys. I cover the NFL mostly, and NFL players have started to realize that 2 and 3 year flexible deals are the way to make the most money. If I'm in school right now and I'm not locked into a super conference, you almost want to be kind of a flexible, short-term deal, see what happens in 3 years kind of thing. And if I'm a Pac-12 school, guys, I'm looking very seriously what can help me until the super conferences are fully formed.
Kevin Clark, again, the Ringer with us on 365 Sports and with us on many things. Now, I know you also cover the NFL. What are your thoughts? What is the Aaron Rodgers to the Jets, the Bills and Stephon Diggs, and they kind of apparently got through that or whatever? What to you, now that we're about a month away from training camps, has been the biggest story in the NFL right now?
I mean, Rodgers to the Jets is A1. You think about the different types of the AFC, where anybody can win. It's like a major golf tournament, right, guys? Where John Rahm, Colin Morikawa, Justin Thomas, all of these guys are so good at winning every single weekend. That's how I feel about quarterbacks in the AFC at the very, very top. Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes. Any of these guys can win a Super Bowl in any given year. I think it's really important to know that health will play a part of that. Luck, just a couple of B-plus players having A-plus years, that kind of thing. But when you're talking about a defense in New York, that reminds me a little bit of Tampa Bay a couple of years ago when Tom Brady got there. And it's a fast defense. It's a young defense. You have weapons. As obviously Mike Evans was that in Tampa. In New York, obviously having a young core and then a running back who's really special, I think. An offensive line is going to be better. The ceiling on that Jets team is incredibly high. And I'm just intrigued to see, A, where that goes. B, Rodgers, I think he's going to love the New York media market. I mean, people say, he's going to hate the New York media. He's going to love the New York media because he loves every one of his comments being blown up and construed, and then he gets to correct the record. He likes to argue balls and strikes. Like, he's going to thrive in the New York media market. And so it's the biggest thing for me. I was actually earlier today on a Buffalo Bills website show, and they were asking me what happens if on that first Monday night, the Bills and the Jets are playing, and the Jets go out to a 2-touchdown, 3-touchdown lead. Does the entire era come out of New York and that franchise and that building? And I'm intrigued to see what that is because it's been a long time since the Jets had expectations. And what happens if Jets fans talk themselves into the Super Bowl and then maybe there's a rough September. Maybe there's a rough first 6 weeks. Remember that happened in Tampa Bay, where it took them a while to get chemistry, and they didn't really have it until the playoffs. So I think there's just so many more questions and answers with the Jets, and that's why I think it's by far the most compelling thing.
Kevin, the NFC though, like if you're who's the best quarterback in that conference? There's wide open for debate. I mean, right now it's probably Jalen Hurts, but if you're almost anybody else, you've got to feel like there's some breathing room now that Rodgers is gone, and Brady too, same year.
If you're an AFC team, I think you think long and hard if you want to make those extra couple free agent signings, extra couple trades, maybe kick the can back with draft picks, whatever, right? If you're an NFC team, I'm accelerating because exactly like you said, Jalen Hurts is probably the best quarterback and one of the best players in the conference. But it is so different to be an NFC team right now because the Niners might be the second best team in that conference with Sam Darnold and Brock Purdy and Trey Lance, who nobody even wants to trade for if you believe the insiders, which I certainly do. And so I don't really know where this goes. I think the Cowboys are really well positioned with that roster. I know I'm not a huge Mike McCarthy fan, but I think that probably the offense will be a little more aligned. I think that they want to turn the keys over to defense a little bit, which I think is important. They have, who has a deeper group of blue chip players in that conference outside Philadelphia than Dallas right now? And so I think that's something to watch. Again, it's a shame that Dallas probably not going to win the division. Probably won't get a home playoff game. Probably can't make a deep playoff run. Seattle is in that mix. We had Albert Breer on our football show this morning, and he said that people around the league, they're comparing the Seattle roster now to the Seattle roster in 2013, 2014, when everybody kind of slept on it. Nobody really knew what kind of talent they had there. I think you're seeing a couple of teams just sort of opt out. I think the Rams are just kind of done for this year. They're going to take a hard reset and see what they have and take their medicine from a salary cap standpoint. The entire NFC South is pretty much a wash. There's a couple teams with elite units, like the Commanders, that just have no chance because of the offensive side of the ball. The Giants are kind of smoke and mirrors. So the Vikings are smoke and mirrors last year. So there's not a lot of contenders right now in the NFC, and I think that sort of third best, fourth best team in the NFC is wide open, and if I could go for it, I would.
Hey, Kevin, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Go take care of the little one. Appreciate your time, and thanks for being a part of the show.
Thanks, guys.
Kevin Clark, the Ringer, with us on 365 Sports. Around the corner, he played.